Today's sermon is titled Relativity of Happiness, Buddhist Perspectives, to be delivered by Reverend Kerry Kiyohara. Kerry Kiyohara is the resident minister of Makawao Buddhist Temple on the island of Maui, serving Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. Kerry was ordained as a priest of Jodo Shinshu Hongwanji Ha in 2016. Then graduated from Chuo Bukyu Gakuin Seminary in Kyoto, was a certified teacher, and assigned as a Kaikyoshi missionary in Hawaii in 2018. Kerry previously worked as CEO, COO, CMO, consultant, and copywriter in Los Angeles, Tokyo, Beijing, Shanghai, and Honolulu. Kerry graduated with a BA and MBA degrees from the University of Southern California and speaks English, Japanese, basic Spanish, and survival Chinese, but is mystified by Dakain Pidgin, Hawaii Creole English. Reverend Kerry.
Aloha, aloha kako, aloha for everyone. Oops, let me go over here. So mahalo, thank you for the opportunity to share the Dharma, the teachings of Buddhism with you this morning. I'd like to spend a few moments to talk story, as we say here in Hawaii, about happiness from a Buddhist perspective. As Americans, culturally, we know things like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's in the Constitution. It's one of our constitutional rights. We know things in popular music like "Don't worry, be happy," and of course, sorry, change slide. Got too many things going on one computer here. Hang on. There we go. So that slide changed. That's good. So what is happiness, right? What is happiness? I think Linus and Snoopy got it right. Happiness is a warm blanket, Charlie Brown. Okay, end of sermon. Everybody have a great day. Bye. If only it were so easy. The dictionary, of course, offers this as the definition. This is dictionary.com. Happiness is the quality or state of being happy. Okay. Happiness is good fortune, pleasure, contentment, joy. And then, of course, you have to look up what does happy mean. Happy is defined as basically the last line. Good fortune, pleasure, contentment, joy, satisfaction. And all of these things, of course, are from a very human perspective. It's good fortune if it's good and convenient for me. It's pleasure if it's pleasurable for me. If something brings me contentment, that's good. So brings me joy, brings me satisfaction, I'm happy. And so the German philosopher, Alfred Schopenhauer, he posited that happiness can be defined by what I have relative to what I want. I think that's the next slide. So if you look at this, right, so if what I have is greater than what I want, so in other words, the ratio is greater than 1, then I'm happy, right? So if I have more than what I want, I'm happy. That's a good thing. Conversely, if what I have is less than what I want, so in other words, the ratio is less than 1, then I'm not happy. So in many ways, this model describes the relativity of happiness we observe in our own lives and in the lives of others. In this sense, Schopenhauer's model is actually quite insightful, and generally speaking, rings true. People would agree that, yeah, that sounds right. And yet, our human nature is such that our all too human, ego-centered view of happiness very often leads to unhappiness, discontent, and dissatisfaction. So the American dream, I have everything I need, but I want more. I want more. That's the American dream. Now, the American nightmare, right, is I have everything I want, but I'm still not happy. In the sense of maybe I'm not actively unhappy, but there's some kind of sense of not quite everything I wanted. It's a little disappointing, a little, isn't there more? Is this it? Is this? How many times in your life have you asked yourself, is this it? Or said to yourself, this is as good as it's going to get. And then that disappears. And then something good also happens again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I worked in advertising for more than 20 years. So the advertising agency's guy's dream is when the consumer says, I want everything that everyone else has. I want everything that everybody else has. We start comparing ourselves to others. And for an advertising agency guy, that's the dream come true. So as consumers, I mean, as you know, we're constantly conditioned to want more, more, more. The killer lines in advertising are things like new and improved. Now that'll sell pretty much anything. New and improved. Oops, sorry, I'm not on camera here. New and improved. Yeah. One that you see quite recently is don't miss out. Don't miss out. Everybody's doing this. Don't miss out. Or the slightly kind of passive aggressive, criticism. Oh, you're still using that old thing? I mean, I've got, let me show you my super cool phone. It's an iPhone 11. You're still using that old thing? It's not an iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is like won't fit in my pocket. Now, as Americans, it's all about keeping up with the Joneses. I actually was trying to looking up that phrase. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I'm guessing, the 50s or 60s or so. Well, you think about that, though, right? So having gone into massive debt, 35-year mortgage or whatever it is now, and we go into massive debt. We move into a new house, and immediately we start comparing ourselves with our new neighbors. Got to keep up with the Joneses. So again, the American dream, the advertising guy's dream. So despite living in the wealthiest nation in the world, many Americans will report, a vague sense perhaps of dissatisfaction, discontent, unhappiness. Now, obviously, if you're homeless, you have other issues beyond satisfaction, contentment, and happiness. So there is pain and suffering out there, but for a lot of Americans, we actually have pretty much everything we thought we wanted. And yet there's this vague sense of, is this it? Is this it? Doesn't it get any better than this? Many Americans report that they suffer from stress, and we constantly seek ways to alleviate stress. It's Miller time, alcohol is a good one. Sex. Hey, sex is the ultimate stress management thing. Right? Food, eat more food. Ethical drugs, this new drug will cure all of your problems. But if your brain starts melting, leaking out of your ears, see your doctor. If you develop cancer, see your doctor. Your brain might fall out of your head, see your doctor. Ethical drugs, right? Or illegal drugs. Oh yeah, dude. It's funny, it's actually my generation, our generation, that has gone away from alcohol as the stress reliever and moved to cannabis, which I find hilarious, because in high school, I mean, you could get arrested and your life would be over if you're like smoking a joint in the baseball field. Don't do it. But all these things, right? So the legalization of medical cannabis, and then the legalization of recreational cannabis, it's the fastest growing stress reliever there is. It is a multi-billion-dollar category in America alone. It's really quite amazing. So stress, I'm so stressed out. Let's what do you call this? Binge watch Netflix. You could turn your brain off, right? It's like, hey, next 8 hours, hey, okay, I wonder what's going on. Oh, the season ended. What's going to happen next season? Clever marketing guys saying, hey, we got you. So what is the Buddhist perspective on this situation? Now, how many of you have heard Buddhism described as the Buddha taught life is suffering? The Buddha. The Buddha never said that, by the way. But this is one. Actually, it's one of the first translations of this next word, which I'm going to introduce, which is this one. Dukkha, and dukkha happens. I mean, so what the Buddha really taught was life comes with dukkha. Dukkha happens. So what is dukkha? If you get the joke, then it's kind of, you understand what dukkha is. Life is dukkha. So life is stress. Life is stressful. Life comes with stress. So this actually the Buddha did say, Birth is stressful, aging is stressful. So if you replace stressful with dukkha, right? So birth is dukkha. Birth is stressful, aging is dukkha, aging is stressful. Death is stressful. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, despair are stressful. Association with the unbeloved is stressful. Separation from the loved is stressful. Not getting what is wanted is stressful. Right? In short, the 5 clinging aggregates are stressful. The 5 clinging aggregates, the 5 aggregates are a Buddhist conception of how we perceive the world. And because we're stuck on these things, it creates suffering. It creates suffering. So if the first one is form. So if you get stuck on the idea, I will always be 27, and I look in the mirror and go, hey, who's that old guy? If you're stuck on form, that my previous young form, obviously I start worrying about it and say, hey, how come my hair's getting kind of gray here? And you start using products that the advertising guy sells. Remember, left hand's on camera. So new and improved, make you look younger. So life is dukkha. So life comes with stress, comes with discontent. It comes with unhappiness. At the same time, right, life does come with joy and happiness, all these things, but we tend to cling to them. We tend to get attached to these things. So that makes Buddhism sound like a pessimistic religion, right? So when you start thinking about dukkha, it is actually a very fascinating word in Sanskrit because it means all these things: suffering, pain, so mental pain, physical pain, psychological pain, disappointment, dissatisfaction, discontent, unhappiness, stress, anxiety. You have to be with someone you don't like, right? Or you have to be away from the person you love. Death is the ultimate separation, right? You lose your loved one, and it's everything is changed. From a Buddhist perspective, we would say that Buddhism is realistic, as opposed to being pessimistic. So, the Buddha's observation that birth is stressful. If you're a woman and you have given birth, I think you could probably give a pretty good testimony to that. So all of these things that come with human existence, we find stressful. So it'd be more accurate to say the Buddha taught life comes with dukkha. Life comes with, disappointment, discontent, dissatisfaction. But at the same time, it also comes with the reverse of those things. So born human, we experience the truth of human existence. So we're born, our mind and body begins to age and decay immediately. Okay. We get sick, we get a disease of some sort, an illness. Inevitably, we reach the end of life. And in between birth and death, we experience joy and sorrow, love and hate, and pleasure and pain. So returning to Schopenhauer's model, the Buddhist perspective would be, right, what I, in quotes, what I have, right, so these are my ego desires fulfilled, relative to what my ego wants. So these are ego desires fulfilled. So it's all, from the Buddhist perspective, it's all about the ego and our attachment to our ego, or self. Many times in Buddhism, it's referred to as the self. But the self is an illusion. It's the delusion created by our brain. The limited capacity of our brain can only, conceive things so far. And I think Kerry is real. It's very real. I'm very real. Thank you very much. But I think of it this way, right? So it's like what I have, what I want, that's my happiness. So in advertising, we seek to understand the needs, wants, and desires of the consumer. So needs are the basic things we need to survive, right? Air, water, food, shelter, community. Wants appeals to more basic human nature, right? I want more. Having acquired, air, water, food, shelter, I want a better shelter. I want better food. I want better water. pH balance, alkaline water or whatever, whatever the healthy stuff is nowadays. Now desires are much more subtle manifestations of our ego. So if you think, again, remember the Buddhist fundamental teaching, as human beings, we're just completely convinced it's about me. It's about me. It's about my ego. So the ego desire to be superior to others, to feel that I am above others, is very subtle, and yet it's very pervasive in human psychology. So I want more than the other guy, so that I'll be recognized as more successful, more attractive, more powerful, more influential, whatever it may be. I'm more spiritual. I meditate for 45 minutes a day. You should too. The ego desire to feel superior, to be perceived as superior to others. This is actually the foundation of all advertising, which indeed aims to create desire, right? Ego-centered desires in the consumer, even if we're not aware of it. Right? I mean, one of the tricky bits of advertising is to create desire for something that you didn't know existed. And that's why you have these big, huge launch campaigns that no matter where you look, you're going to see the new product launch. And hopefully it's targeted correctly, and you go, yeah, I'll buy that. So what is the Buddhist perspective, in this context? So Buddhism, or more precisely certain paths in Buddhism, aim to make what I have and what I want zero. So think about this, right? Give up everything you have, shave your head, give up your hair, right? Become a monk, renounce this world, you have no material possessions. Give up everything you want, right? Including sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I know I show my age by using that as the metaphor, but indeed, that's monastic life, right? I mean, celibacy, no intoxicants like booze or weed, no indulging in the pleasures of the senses, physical, psychological, mental, but also rock and roll in the sense that you're not supposed to be having fun as a monk. It's pretty hardcore stuff. Now, if I remember my math correctly, and I was more of an English major than a math major, so my math's pretty weak. But I remember vaguely the teacher saying something, it's not possible or it's not allowed for the denominator to be zero, right? You can't have a fraction with the denominator zero. It's against the law, it's against the rules. You can't divide things by zero. But think of, 0 over 0, is this 1? I don't know, I never figured that one out in math class. If you put 0 over 0, is that 1? But no, you're not allowed to have a 0 in the denominator. The point I'm trying to make, actually, Buddhism is saying this: if you can awaken to reality as it is, you have everything you need right now to be happy. So in other words, right, if what you have is equal to what you want, you're happy by definition, Now, our tradition would argue that it's impossible for the average human being to let go of their ego, to let go of their ego desires. So, making what I want zero is not possible for the average human being. So this is the conundrum that we find ourselves in. I have everything I want, so why am I not happy? So the argument, of course, would be that it's impossible to make it zero, to make the denominator zero. You can't eliminate your ego desires. And so, because our self-centered human nature is to want more. The American dream, want more, buy more, becomes the American nightmare. The insatiable desire for more, desires that can never be fulfilled. And if we fulfill one desire, the ego comes up with another one. I want a Ferrari, I want a Tesla, I want something. And so thus life is dukkha, life, is dissatisfying, basically. We're doomed to exist in this state of constantly wanting more than we have. And thus, by Schopenhauer's model, we're not happy. So the question becomes, is happiness absolute, or is happiness relative? Oops, so it's this one, I think. Sorry, my slides are slightly out of order. This should be this one here. So religion, of course, promises absolute happiness, whether this refers to going to heaven, eternal life, in our tradition, going forth after when you die, you go forth to birth in the pure land of Amida Buddha. You instantaneously become Buddha, and you come back to this world in oneness with Amida to guide others to find their way to birth in the pure land. Or more traditional forms, you meditate, you focus, you become a monk. This is the spiritual growth path leading to awakening as a Buddha. But for the rest of us, just ordinary, utterly human, unexceptional people, what to do? Raise your hand if you want to shave your head and become a monk today. You just have to give up your house and your car and all the money and your 401k and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, maybe not, Kerry. I'm not sure about that. In the Honganji tradition of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, which we belong to, we're part of the Mahayana stream of Buddhism, and Mahayana tends to look at happiness this way. If you can forget your individual happiness, that's happiness defined in Buddhism. If the issue of your happiness ceases to be an issue, that is happiness defined in Buddhism. And this is Reverend Dr. Nobuo Haneda's quote. So in Mahayana tradition of Buddhism, the bodhisattva is the ideal. A bodhisattva is a being who is ready to become Buddha, has done everything needed to become Buddha, but delays awakening, delays becoming a Buddha until all other beings become Buddha. All other beings can escape from this endless cycle of birth and death. Put in simple terms, I won't become Buddha until everyone is Buddha. This is the bodhisattva ideal. So in other words, bodhisattva is when you truly care about the happiness of others more than your own happiness. It becomes other focused happiness. And I think we can all agree that's a pretty tough proposition. Why? Because born human, our default worldview is, it's about me, me first, me, me. And it's really hard to get over that. As adults, we learn to modulate it a bit and maybe cover it up. But in the end, we're all competing with each other because I want to feel superior to everybody else. That's why I get to wear the robes and stuff. So don't I look good wearing these? Yeah, I look in the mirror and kind of go, yeah, you look pretty good, dude. So the goal of Buddhism, just to put it very simply, is not to be happy, right? But to truly live this unrepeatable life as if it's not about me. Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, we don't have a practice per se. We don't meditate like the Zen practitioners. We don't create the Buddha realms, the realm of the Buddha, through chanting or drawing mandalas or esoteric rites and rituals. The Honganji tradition in Hawaii is really centered around three things, which should be this slide. The power of sharing, and the power of saying mahalo, the power of saying thank you, expressing gratitude, and the power of sangha. Sangha means, the slide says the power of community. Sangha is the temple community, the Buddhist community. It would be like the community you have in Cambria. And there's power in that. So the power of sharing is easy, right? It's easy to understand that if you can share whatever you have, you will come to want less. So if you share what you have, you're going to want less, right? If you live your life, it's about me, then you share nothing. You hold on to everything you have. If you live life as it's not about me, then you share everything. So the power of saying mahalo, the power of saying thank you. In our tradition, we emphasize that the expression of gratitude, saying gratitude, saying thank you, is much more important than feeling gratitude. I am grateful. I am grateful. Good things happen to me. I am grateful. So being grateful is kind of like, if I fulfill all my ego needs, I'm grateful because life is good. It's when life is not convenient, when life doesn't go according to plan, can you still say thank you? So you're going to be seeing a lot, and you're going to be hearing a lot about gratitude in the coming months. Gratitude is going to be the next mindfulness, the next meditation, the next big thing for the nonprofit, spiritual, but not religious space. There's a lot of good ideas, and there's going to be a lot of medical research, that's coming out, that's being published now, and it's more on the way, that says, gratitude has positive effects on physical, emotional, psychological health and well-being. So if you want to be happy, be grateful. That's going to be the Facebook poster you're going to be grateful. Have you ever noticed that things that sort of sound like Buddhism are always in a command form of the language? Be grateful. Let it go. Be happy. Part of it's the linguistic construction of the American English language, but I think it shows you something. But you will notice one thing, right? It's really easy to be grateful when you get what you want. It's easy to tell others, be grateful, when you have more than they do. Right? It's easy, right, to preach to others, I practice gratitude, you should too. You know, you obviously need it, I'm superior to you. Gratitude is very me. It's, you know, it's egocentric by definition. But expression of gratitude, saying thank you, it doesn't have to be in words. You can say it with your eyes, with your face, etc., or just by doing things for people. But the expression of gratitude, by definition, is other-centered. It's not me-centered. It's other-centered. In other words, it's not about me. It's not about me. So I often offer up when I do a visitation to our preschool. I like to play games with the kids, and I tell them a story, which maybe I'll share at a later date. The kids who say thank you too much, and it's a children's story. And quite literally, the kids just say thank you too much and everything works out great. And then I ask the kids, hey, can you help sensei out by, you have to say mahalo, you have to say thank you 10 times a day for 10 days. At the end of 10 days, you would have said thank you 100 times. And they're like, oh, okay, sensei. And usually it takes about 2 seconds for one of the really smart kids to kind of pop up and go, sensei, sensei, here we go. Mahalo, 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 mahalo. I'm done with my homework for today, sensei. Ooh, let's play. I got, sensei didn't think of that. Sorry, sensei's old. But think about that. And when I do this with adults, it's actually quite serious. If you actually make the time to say mahalo, to say thank you for any reason, for no reason, just because you want to say thank you, you'll be surprised. The people around you seem different. You start feeling different. It's an interesting exercise. So I challenge you to say mahalo, say thank you 10 times today. The Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, is quoted as saying, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. Right? If you want to be happy, practice compassion. The wisdom of the Dalai Lama. If you want an example of a bodhisattva, I think the Dalai Lama is probably the closest example we could point to. In many ways, is a remarkably enlightened person, enlightened man. But he's not Buddha yet, and he won't tell you that he's not. He's never claimed that he's Buddha. But you could say he's on a different level of spiritual growth than most of us, to be sure. So in the Jodashin Shohonganji tradition, we look at empathy, sympathy, and compassion. I found this cartoon, which I love. Empathy, I feel your pain. Sympathy, I'm sorry you're in pain. Right? Compassion, in our tradition, would say, I'm compelled to do something to alleviate your pain. Compassion compels me to help you, to alleviate your pain, your suffering. I may not be able to do very much, but I am compelled to do something. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. So compassion is karma. Karma means action. So karma is action. And the karmic consequences of compassion are infinite. So mahalo for listening this morning. Thank you for listening this morning. May your day be filled with aloha. And I look forward to your questions and comments and discussion following the end of the service. So I'll teach you a good Hawaiian thing. This is called a shaka. So thumb up, little finger up. You kind of go. You can go like this. Interestingly, in Maui, we tend to do it this way for some reason. So it's like, hey, shaka. Other places, it's like this. You can mean hello, thank you, just acknowledging stuff. But shaka to all of you, aloha. And we'll come back in a little bit. Thank you.